Hey, Tom here from the Run Testers. In this video, I'm going to be doing a first run review of the Speedland GS PDX trail running shoe. Let's take a look. The Speedland GS PDX costs $275. It weighs 300 grams or 10.6 ounces for men in a 8.5, and the drop is 7 millimeters. The Speedland GS PDX is a trail shoe designed for long distance training that aims to combine comfort with a good level of responsiveness for faster sessions. The shoe combines a 100% beaded HTPU external midsole with a drop-in Pebax blended insole. The upper, made from a lightweight and breathable mesh, uses two multi-directional BOA Fit System dials to allow for quick fastening and release, along with the ability to ensure a supportive lockdown fit. Covering the midsole is a generous layer of Michelin Fiberlite outsole with 4.5mm lugs to provide a high level of protection as well as grip on the trails. Within the insole is space for a Carbotex GearFlex plate to improve performance, however this is sold separately. So the fit for me in this shoe, it's an interesting one when it comes to fit because it uses these BOA fastening discs, you'd call them, system. So basically you turn these and it pulls the straps and tightens the shoe. If you're a snowboarder, you will be very familiar with BOA, the BOA system. I am a snowboarder, so I'm used to using it. I'm used to getting working out how the fit works with that. The fit for me in this shoe, so this is an 8.5 in the US. I'm a size 8 in the UK. This fit me absolutely perfectly. I had no issues at all. There's quite a lot of room in the forefoot as well. It's quite a wide shoe, so I didn't have any issues with the fit there. If you've got wider feet, that might be good for you. One thing I would say about the shoe is that if you're not used to using the BOA system, you do have to play around with it to get a comfortable fit. There's a tendency with the BOA design that you just turn it until it stops and think it's done up, but that tends to be a little bit too far, I find. So I did have to loosen it a couple of times on the run to get a nice fit because it was a little bit tight on the first few runs. It's a lot easier to get a fit that's too tight with the BOA system than it is with laces. But overall, yeah, found the fit to be very comfortable. No issues on that run, had plenty of space, and I would stick to, well, an 8.5 in the US, which would normally be what I would go for in a US sizing. Okay, so the first run I did in this was a 10k, which had a little bit of road, and then I went up some hills and across some rocky and muddy areas, a bit of grass, a bit of mud, and did some inclines and declines. And I was quite surprised by the shoe because if you look at it, it looks like a big max cushion shoe. I expected it to be quite soft. It's a shoe designed for ultra running, and as a result, I would normally expect this to be a little bit softer for that sort of distance. It's actually quite a firm shoe. The midsole that sits in this shoe is pretty firm. You can feel it. When I was on the road sections, I really felt that midsole being quite hard, and I didn't enjoy it very much on those road sections. It's not really a shoe designed for road, but I definitely noticed that it wasn't very comfortable on those road sections. I definitely wanted more softness from this shoe. So you've got that midsole, which is quite firm. There's also an insole in here, if I can get it out, which is quite big. So this is quite a thick midsole, and that's where the softness comes from. So I did notice a nice bit of softness from that insole, and it did make it a bit more comfortable. So you can't actually put different insoles in the shoe, I don't think. I think you can only use these ones. But the other thing as well is, and I didn't realise this when I started testing the shoe, is that you can add a plate into this shoe. And I had assumed that the plate would come with the shoe when you bought it, but it doesn't. You have to pay extra for the plate, and that's an extra $35. So I've not actually tested it with the plate in. I'm hopefully going to get hold of that for the full review, but that just pops into that insole there, and then you've got an interchangeable plate if you wanted to have a plate in it for different types of runs. I'm not sure what the impact of the plate would be because I haven't obviously tested that, but based on the firmness of the shoe, I think that might even make it a little bit firmer. I'm expecting. So what I found on that run is that over the road sections, it did feel quite firm, and I definitely didn't really enjoy it on the harder sections just because it's a little bit too firm for me. I like a bit soft shoe even on the trails, especially if I was going to do an ultra. I'd probably want a shoe that's a little bit softer. But once I got onto the muddier sections, it really started to click into gear and it felt really comfortable. Over the course of that whole run, the shoe felt really nice on the off-road sections, on the trail sections and the rocky and muddy sections. It felt a lot more comfortable and definitely kicked into gear a bit more, and I could sort of feel the shoe working a lot better on that different terrain. So I would say it's definitely a shoe that really works on that sort of softer terrain for me. The outsole on it, it's got this Michelin rubber outsole, which is pretty heavy duty. There's a nice covering of it across the whole of the shoe. They're not massive lugs, so they're not designed for like mud or anything like that, really deep mud. They're more for those kind of long distance softer paths, I think, that you're probably going to get in the UK in the spring and summer, and it works really well. I had no issues with the outsole on this at all. Felt very comfortable. On the road sections, I think they probably the hardness of this rubber, in addition to the hardness of the midsole, became really noticeable on those road sections, and it really wasn't, but there's no softness in it at all apart from that insole, which is minimal. So the outsole's really good when you're on those softer paths and you're on mud and grass and things like that. Felt really good, no issues at all with that. The upper also I thought was absolutely fine. Didn't feel hot at all, felt quite breathable, no issues with it at all, felt very comfortable once I got that BOA system fit locked down nicely. So yeah, let's talk about the verdict. So my early verdict with the shoe is an interesting one because I expected this shoe to be very different than what it is. The shoe obviously looks very chunky. It looks like it's a big cushion shoe for longer distance running, but it's actually firmer than I would have expected. And if I'm looking for a long distance shoe, I've only done a couple of ultras in my life, but if I'm running an ultra, I want something nice and soft and comfortable that rolls me forward and just keeps me going, and I don't have to worry about it. This is definitely a lot firmer than I would normally go for with a ultra shoe, but I don't know if that is going to soften up a little bit over time. Also, I don't know what the effect of the plate is going to be. To be honest, I'm very surprised that you get the plate separately from buying the shoe, which seems like quite a big extra spend. It costs $275 for this shoe, and the plate is an extra $35, which suddenly makes it very expensive. So hopefully I'll get hold of the plate and see how that impacts the ride for the full review when I get to it. But overall, I enjoyed that run. I thought it was a very comfortable shoe. I thought it was very, very nice to wear on those softer sections, on the muddy sections, on the rockier sections where there was a bit of softer ground. I found it to be very comfortable. I had no issues at all with it and would happily run around the trails for quite a while in this shoe. I definitely don't think it would work very well on very hard ground, so roads, which you wouldn't use this for anyway, really, unless you're doing an ultra that you have to go on some road bits. But if you were running across mountain areas with very hard rocky sections, I think you'd notice this being a little bit too firm, or I would find it too firm on those sections. But the big thing about this shoe, which I think is a very, very positive point, it's very stable. Because of that midsole foam being a little bit sturdier, it's a really, really stable shoe, and at no point in that run did I feel like my feet were in any way losing grip on the ground or anything. It just felt really well bedded in, solid hit on the ground, and no issues at all from that. So I think it's a very stable shoe, and if that's what you want from an ultra, which is probably something a lot of people want from an ultra, because your legs might get tired later on in it and you want something that's really going to make sure that you're not going to be tipping over or causing any injuries, that's a big plus point for this shoe as well. And I think that's probably one of the reasons a lot of people like this shoe. So overall, enjoyed it. I think it's a very expensive shoe, and I also I was just surprised that you had to buy the plate separately. But I will report back on the full testing of the shoe as I use it over the next couple of weeks over some longer runs. That's it from me on the Speedland GS PDX trail shoe. Thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, click that little bell, and if you go into the caption below, you can find a link to our podcast, which comes out at the end of each month. Catch you next time.